I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision, neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may we use it in our directives for the common good, thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, call to order, roll call please.
Mr. Joyce,
Here.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick.
Here.
Mrs. Mara.
Here.
Mr. Thompson and
Present.
Mr. Conrad's absent.
Before you do that, does somebody want to make a motion to excuse Ryan from tonight's meeting?
Oh, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to excuse
Thompson
Mr.
makes a
Conrad.
motion. Joyce seconds. Roll call please.
Mr. Joyce.
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick.
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Okay, next, moving on to public comment. Anyone for the public want to comment?
Please, we've so missed you.
You're our only public. I had a question earlier, but. I did? Okay, good.
All right, well, no public comment. Moving on, we'll go to reading and disposition of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the regular council meeting minutes of September 17, 2024, please?
I make a motion.
Samara makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
There's one change,
I'm sorry, discussion.
and under personnel and attendance, I had listed that the chief was here, but she wasn't, so I removed that.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other corrections or comments? Okay, roll call then, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Hardwick.
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to legislation. Resolution number 2024-23. Resolution retroactively authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to take all necessary steps to enter the village into an agreement with the illuminating company for LED streetlights and declare an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please?
So moved.
Mr. Joyce makes a motion.
I second.
Mrs. Meyer seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick.
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. Do I have a motion approving resolution 2024-23, please?
Move to approve.
Mr. Thompson.
Threw
makes
you
a
off.
motion. Yeah.
Threw you off.
Second,
I'll second. I'll second.
Mr. Joyce seconds, discussion. I just wanted to comment, these are the street lights that we're gonna be replacing the LEDs on Lakeshore Boulevard. I believe there's 11 of them, so. And we'll save quite a bit on our electric bill costs then also.
Yeah, over time, we should,
And we're using NOPEC funds to,
which we just got a few days ago, so once they get
Okay.
back to us with the schedule of when they're doing it,
Be a cost to the village at all, then.
no cost to the village, correct?
so.
I like those kinds of resolutions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, do I have any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick.
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Next is resolution 2024-24. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Lake County Board of Commissioners for Central Dispatch and Communication Services and declare an emergency. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules, please? Mrs. Joyce makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Joyce seconds. Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick. Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you. I have a motion approving resolution 2024-24, please.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Joyce makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Mara seconds. Discussion.
So this is an updated agreement for our dispatch with the Lake County, And it's they're continuing to do a contract, let's see, based on so it looks like the 2025 contract is based on a 2% increase plus the ending CPI of the previous year. And the increase for this contract for 1 year cannot exceed 4%. So in 2025, the estimated cost for this portion of the dispatch is $25,773.77. There's another invoice we usually get it's a separate, I think it's might be Backbone, which is about $2,000 per quarter. I don't believe that's included in this. So
John, is this is an increase? What's the percentage increase from year to year? Do you know?
I don't know yet because I'm not sure what CPI they're using yet.
Okay,
So,
but the maximum.
but the max is 4%. So it's similar to what they've done in the past, but the only difference is this is a 1 year, and I think they usually do 3-year contracts, I believe.
Isn't it 3 year stuff?
Usually it is, but this is a 1 year contract. Yeah, they moved it to 1 year.
Now, in the past, when they did a 3-year, was it also limited by the CPI, or was it limited by the CPI?
They would base the increase on the CPI but there was still a max of the 4%, I believe.
Okay, so in other words, they've just increased our cost by 8% over a 3-year period.
Yeah, I mean, the previous.
12% over a 3-year period as opposed to.
Right. And yeah, so it's similar to the previous contract, but it's only
It's just that it's only
1
years.
instead of 3 years.
Yeah.
So, but it's Eastlake does a similar raise or increase with the fire rescue contract. So,
Do you know, are they gonna go to a 1-year too?
it is well, I think I feel like that's an evergreen contract. And they basically send an update to the cost, and I think it's November usually. So, and that's based on, I think, the October CPI year over year.
So
So.
if you figure it's gonna be 25,000 plus possibly another $8,000, $2,000 a quarter.
Right, which we've already budgeted. I already assumed they would increase it by at least inflation.
I can't remember what it was last year or last
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, I think I have in the budget for about 38,000 for next year, so that should be enough, including the other portion, the backbone.
But you don't remember what it was for 2024?
Not offhand, no. 69.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce?
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce? Mrs. Hardwick?
Aye.
Mrs. Mara?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson?
Aye.
Next, resolution 2024-25. Resolution approving the permanent appropriations for the village of Timberlake, Ohio for the year 2025 and declaring an emergency. That's on first reading. Next is resolution 2024-26, also on first reading. A resolution authorizing the fiscal officer to transfer $15,000 from the general fund 1,000 to the police cruiser fund 4901 for the current fiscal year 2024 and declare an emergency. Next is resolution 2024-27 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the fiscal officer to transfer $41,322 from the general fund 1,000 to the paving improvement OPWC debt service fund 3902 for fiscal year 2025 and declare an emergency. Next is ordinance 11-2024, also on first reading. An ordinance amending wages and salaries for the employees of the village of Timberlake, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Moving on to reports. Mayor's report, basically, we'll be getting our salt spreader installed on the 28th of this month, so we'll be ready for winter there. And we had a village club meeting, talked about putting out the luminaires. I know it's a little close early yet, but we discussed that. And basically, we're just looking for volunteers to put them out and light them on, Christmas Eve on December 24th. So
Question on that, John. I got a text from Kim regarding, us taking responsibility for our triangle. Does that mean that I need to supply the luminaria? In the past,
No.
the
No.
service department and village club have made sure that the luminaria got out there. They just needed somebody to light them and make sure that they were.
yeah, how we're gonna do it is we have 500 luminaries at the service yard. So
Okay.
we'll just take them and drop them off at all the islands, and whoever does the islands, and then usually we just drive up with usually the gator or one of the small pickup trucks with the trailer. They're all on the trailer, and we just put them out and light them as we go.
You'll put them out, you won't light them.
We'll put them out, yeah, and then
Yeah.
we'll come back and then we just come out and then light them. And usually people that, whoever's in front of their house, they'll take care of those in the.
You got your
islands.
responsibility call, right? That you're responsible for?
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's gonna be responsibility calls put out there from, like you said, the village club is, everyone has a sign list, so everyone's gonna get an island. And then again, if they can't do it, we'll get someone else to do it, but
Yeah.
if not, and then we'll have, like I said, service help pitch in, so.
so will the service actually space them out? Or will
No,
they
they're gonna
just
drop
put
them off in a
a
bundle.
pile?
They're tied up in a bundle. They're up to you.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just
Yeah,
making sure that,
They're just tied up in a bundle and you
yeah,
distribute it. Yeah.
okay.
or we'll coordinate where they'll bring them there when you're there, and then they'll work on it all together, because usually we probably do it on that Saturday before, or whatever Christmas Eve is on the
Yeah,
24th.
Christmas is a Wednesday this year, so Christmas Eve will be Tuesday.
So it'll be Tuesday then, when we'll be putting, luminaires out.
Okay.
And, that's about all I have to report at this point. So solicitor report.
Just a couple of things, Mayor. Just a couple of things, Mayor. First thing is, I had a chance to early vote today. For those of you that are considering that, we're down to the Board of Elections in Painesville. Very simple process. I was in and out of there in less than about 8 minutes. I went by later to file something in one of the courts, walk through there because it's a little chilly and rainy. And they probably had about 15 people waiting, but it's been steady since October 8th when early voting started. So I would encourage everyone to either get that or vote on election day. A couple other quick things. Safety committees next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Okay, if we drafted an agenda, are we going to go back over the stuff that was unfinished from the original?
Actually, a number of things. Send it out tomorrow.
Okay. Because I'm going to have a follow-up on a report that was provided to me by the sheriff's department, so I'm going to want to address that. If we can put that on the agenda. And then, did we get a date yet with Eastlake on?
No, I sent out, last email I sent out was on Thursday and
Because it was like the 24th or 25th.
right, and I haven't heard a response. So,
So is everybody aware of what's going on?
I think I mentioned it.
You think you,
But
you want to do a quick?
sure, we're responsible for a certain portion of the capital improvements to the WPCC, which is that water pollution plant. So they haven't, when did we get those invoices? Not until
August, September.
right. So it was sometime over the summer, we got invoices for 5 years. And I think the total's about $347,000. But our sanitary sewer fund only has about 119,000. And what's interesting though, is that a lot of the costs that they're invoicing us for are costs that they're paying off in a loan. So for some reason, they're asking for our money up front, whereas they borrowed the money to pay for the improvements.
And those improvements are not directly related to.
Some of them are not directly related to our
They're
sanitary
lift stations
sewers.
that go elsewhere in their district.
Right, so we're looking over, we want to meet with Eastlake and discuss those items and try to come to an agreement on hopefully reducing that those total invoices and then figuring out a way to pay off if there's a balance, over time with Eastlake, so.
I don't know if you got the sarcasm in the email that I got back from their attorney saying,
Right.
well, why didn't you pay these? It's like, well, we just got the bill.
Right. Right. So, my hope is that when we sit down, we'll be able to come to a
So I
better
suggested
understanding.
to the law director that why don't they get somebody from their internal, get together with John, myself, and Mayor or whoever, and sit down and go over, well, what makes up this bill? What is Timberlake's responsibility? And how are we going to get it paid? Because as Mr. Roskis indicates, we got like 114,000 in that fund. And they know that that's all we've got because they know what we bill for those services.
Right.
So, so hopefully in that conversation, we'll move closer to resolving that so that we can get that bill taken care of and address any of the concerns. Because if they continue to want the 340,000, we're going to have a discussion, I guess, about how to
Right.
do that.
But we hadn't received a bill in the meantime.
Well, that's what we're doing.
Right.
We're not going to pay anything until we get a chance to
Right.
sit down with them because
Right. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, there, I mean, and it really,
Did we receive a bill in the meantime?
not a new one.
Okay.
But, what really makes no sense to me is that they want money up front that they're borrowing. That doesn't make any sense to me. And we can't borrow any money from OPWC because they borrowed
they
it.
already did it on the.
They already borrowed it all.
And
so
the
we can't-
project's like 3 years ago.
Right.
That's the other thing, like you're gonna do this big, massive improvement and you don't inform any of the stakeholders that, oh, by the way,
Right. There was very little communication. I mean, they did have like a public meeting a few years ago about the improvements, but after that, there was no follow-up really on the costs. So, whether it was running in line with expectations as far as costs go, and
Right.
there really were no updates.
so I found it interesting. It's just an aside. I said, well, we have, council meetings at such and such. Why don't we meet at 5:30 before that? And I got a very tasteful reply about doing it during the workday.
Oh,
'Cause, government employees can't be bothered with. Wait till they read that in the minutes. But the point is that we've offered. And John gave him the 24th and the 25th. As soon as we know when that's going to be, we'll let you know. And if anybody would like to be educated on that, you're more than welcome to join us, but that's where we are.
Ryan's been involved. We met with, Pete Kremika from CT. And we went through the sewer maps to see what we were really supposed to be responsible for and not.
talking here.
And what shall in line. So Ryan's, when he comes back, like I said, that's why I want him to be part of the meeting also, because he's very well, like I said, informed on that, so.
So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing is, touching on the sewer rates, aren't these sewer treatment plant rates gonna be going up also eventually?
I believe Eastlake already increased them. It looks like they have based on the recent water bill. It looks like they already went up. And I think they went up, I think at least about $20 a quarter for the service fee. And I believe it's another 4% every year after that, was my understanding.
Okay.
So,
Because people have been questioning about their increase.
right, so they're Eastlake and several other cities in the area are way behind on collecting enough money to pay for the improvements. So that's why there's been a big increase, because they weren't increasing it over time. It was just, and there's also some additional EPA projects coming up, so there will be other large improvements that will be done. So.
Okay. All right, thank you for that update. Okay, Ms. Hardwick, village hall update.
Just so you know, I just got knocked off the internet, so take good notes till I can get everybody back on. Oh, it's coming back up. Good. Go ahead.
I don't have anything right now at this time.
All that for that.
Yeah, sorry.
No new rentals for next year?
Couple, nothing. No. Not since the last time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Conrad's excused. Okay, Mr. Joyce, Finance.
We had a we had a finance committee meeting last week and went over the proposed budget, which had first reading today. One of the things that came up in discussion was regarding the hourly workforce, the police department and the service department employees. And we felt that since we did not grant an increase in pay in 2024, that we should consider an increase in pay for 2025. And so I'd like to, as part of my presentation part here, talk about what that would look like if we were to grant a $1 an hour increase for all of the hourlies. Now, I'm not suggesting that we change the salary on the position of chief of police. That is a salary position, and that would be unaffected by this discussion. We're only talking about the officers who are hourly paid and the service department workers. We look at the work that they did in 2023, the response that they had for the service workers in 2024 with regard to the storm and the storm cleanup. They did extraordinary work, heroic work in his and their honorary service worker with the chainsaw and the flip-flops. You know, I know we can't increase his pay, but you know, we appreciate that as well. And then when we look at some of the recruiting issues that we've had with finding police officers, I think that an increase in pay probably could help that as well. So if we talked about a $1 an hour increase across the board, John has calculated that would be an additional cost to the village of about $10,000. And I think that for purposes of discussion tonight, I would like us to kind of consider that. Now, you know, I haven't gotten really anybody else to weigh in on that number, so it's sort of off the cuff for me, but I'd like to take my portion of the report time and allow people to comment on that.
I mean, well, you know, my views on the raises. I think it's necessary with how much inflation we've been facing, and it's not only a reward for good work and our appreciation, but it's also necessary to retain people. And you know, I've worked, mayor especially, you know, has worked close with the service department, and as you said, you know, 2 storms in a row, 2 years in a row, as well as other times during the winter and unfavorable conditions. They've done a good job, and I know our police force did get a really big bump already a few years ago, when everything had changed, and but you know, we do appreciate our officers, and a modest raise after a year of not getting one, I think is in question. And yes, and then as well, and I don't know if this would be separate because it's not hourly, but our fiscal officer should be under consideration as well for a raise.
Yeah, you know, as we looked at the budget, there's some specific targets that are set up for all of the positions in the village. Starting with the mayor, includes the solicitor, includes all of the council people, includes fiscal officer. There is one position that is essentially vacant, and yet it has been essentially taken over by our fiscal officer, who does double duty. And there's a stipend that is set up for on a per meeting basis for the Secretary of Council. And that Secretary of Council is eligible for $60 additional per meeting. Now, what I would like to do is define meeting as council meetings. Or possibly even reword that so that it's a flat rate for each month of the year. Because, in some years, we try not to have a meeting in July, and yet we all still get paid for that. For those meetings that don't take place. Now, this year, it'll turn out that we'll actually have more than 12 meetings, in the calendar year, but in other years, we try to have 11. So, I'd like to see us, add John to as a fiscal officer to Secretary of Council as well, and make him eligible for that $60 per meeting or per council meeting stipend. So those are sort of my thoughts. I think that when you look at what the budget here. Okay, so last year, the police department worked a total of 6,840 hours. And the service department worked a total of 1,456 hours. So when you add $1 an hour to that, it actually is a little bit less when you figure the roll-up cost, which would include, money for Medicare, for OPERS and so on. You would add up to a little bit less than $10,000. And I think that we have traditionally been in a situation where year on year we operate at a surplus. So I think that to flip a little bit of this money to the hourly workers who really sort of keep this going. I mean, I look at the hall and how nice this looks compared to how it did, and that was all service workers. I look at the way that the triangles are maintained during the course of the year. I look at the way that the snow is plowed. The fact that, again, that they got out there on a moment's notice, wee hours of the morning, starting to cut up trees and make the roads passable again for the service department. And, I think that our officers are due a pay increase. So I know that we're lower than Perry, we're lower than Eastlake, we're lower than Madison, we're lower than just about everybody around us. But at the same time, we don't have the same sort of problems that those other larger villages and townships and cities have. So this is a pretty nice place to work, and I think that we ought to make it a little nicer by recognizing them and giving a little money. So I'm going, if there is no objection, what I'd like to propose is an amendment to the ordinance 11/2024, which is on first reading, and adjust the wages for the hourly folks, the service workers and the police department, to increase their hourly rate by $1. And that would also affect the resolution regarding the appropriations, which would be resolution 2024-25, which is on first reading. So both of those would be affected by this. And then the other thing that I would like to do is, and this will again affect 11-2024, would be to increase or add to the fiscal officer's responsibility, Secretary of Council, and just that at $60 per council meeting. So anybody have any comments, suggestions?
As long as you don't start writing a book. As long as one. Kind of an inside joke when you've been on council a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way you do it now. That takes enough time, doesn't it?
Yes,
Does you watch the videos again and make sure you get things?
sometimes, yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
So that's it. That's all I have.
Mrs. Joyce.
We have scheduled a public safety committee meeting for next Tuesday, October 2nd at 6 o'clock. We're picking up a number of, issues. Some of them have been sent to the 50. We're going to look at data from our speed camera out on Venture Boulevard. Look at the data that the radar that's been recording data all summer with speeds on Lakeshore Boulevard. Ryan's been spending some time looking at those reports, so he wants an opportunity to present that. We're going to revisit body cameras. I think we left hanging a few other things we'd like to have addressed as well. So, and also the emergency plan for the availability of the hall for our residents who maybe don't have generators during power outages so that they could come in maybe. And so we're going to talk about that as well. So that's next Tuesday.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Mara.
Not much to report other than there was, like the mayor said, there was a village club meeting last night. October 19th, right? This coming Saturday, Cindy, is the Halloween party for the kids. Please, if you'd like to help set up Friday night at 6 or Saturday morning at 11, they could use the help. Jennifer Trick, a new resident, fairly new resident, has donated a lot of new things to the village club for the party. We really appreciate it. Jennifer, thank you. Kudos to you. December 7th is the Christmas concert, which we just confirmed last night. We're gonna have a concert instead of a dinner, family friendly, all different kind of Christmas carols. We confirmed it last night on the phone with the administrator of the symphony, Cleveland Clinic Symphony, it's called. And we will be having also cookies and desserts and coffee and things like that, December 7th, instead of a Christmas party. We're gonna try this year because everybody liked the symphony that we had earlier in the summer where people came. So we'll be selling tickets $5 a person. I mean, how can you beat that? And kids are free. And so there'll be a Christmas cookie bake off, so to speak, or people baking. They want to have bakers in the hall and having like a baker, a bunch of women get together and bake for this. It's a lot of women in one kitchen. Anyways, Patty Pavlicek, if you want to call Patty about that, I want to thank Andrea. Also, how do I say Andrea's last name? Andrea Polchak, who came up with the initial idea of this Cleveland Clinic Symphony. And I just called into the organization of it. So December 7th is the Christmas gala, I guess we want to call it. Please put that in your calendars. And this Saturday, the Halloween party for kids. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thompson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a few things to address tonight. One, during the Finance Committee meeting, something I had brought up, I want to bring it to the public attention. I'm sure it might get into the minutes anyway that you covered during the committee meeting, but earlier today, Mr. Joyce joked rhetorically, well, we can't pay the mayor anymore, right? But why not? And I'm not suggesting that we give ourselves a raise. No public figure wants to, elected official wants to be in the position to be, taking from the community and paying themselves more. But I bring it up because I do think we may need, going forward, we may need to discuss the structure of how we do things on council and in our government in terms of the workload and the division of the workload, et cetera. We do have a inspector, Gary Gray, and he plays his part. Some people think he should be doing a lot more. Some people think council should be doing a lot more and not Gary. And in terms of, or the police force rather, in terms of enforcing ordinances. I remember before I got on council, one of the last meetings of the prior council, the former head of the hall said, and I'm not mentioning names, the former head of the hall said, you know, they were going over the hall, the business of running the hall, and she said, I don't know who's going to run the hall next year, but it's not going to be this girl, word for word. And there's a reason why people feel that way after a while. And maybe not for Cindy, but anyway, more pay isn't necessarily the only solution. More pay could help. Mr. Joyce during the finance committee was bringing up maybe a stipend for extra work, but it's not just about pay. We could structure things differently if there were. I would do this for free. I would just, you know, I would attend to people's concerns, work on legislation, show up to meetings, try to do that kind of work for free, but going out at 7 a.m. during a tornado is a little different. And what Cindy has to do, and maybe Cindy has no complaints, so I'm not trying to speak for Cindy, but dealing with all of the hall, just constant busy work, dealing with the applications and dealing with people, making sure people pay on time. To me, that's just, it's a lot of busy work, and it's not what you think you're going to do when you run for council and you want to represent Timberlake and you want to make Timberlake a better place. And it's sort of like a volunteer job. It is, and you may not mind that, but burnout is a real thing. And it might merit the discussion if we could merge a couple jobs and pay a part-time employee to handle some of that stuff. It would make sense to me if we had a head of service who right now the mayor is taking on, which normally it's a council person, but if we had the head of service potentially run the hall, show up at 7 a.m. meeting tree contractors, making those kinds of calls, etc. It's busy work. Now I realize Timberlake is a small community. We don't have an extra 50 grand to throw to a full-time employee to do that kind of stuff. But, you know, if we took away all of our salaries, you know, which I'm not so sure you want to do, I'd be willing to do it. To pay someone else to deal with that, I'd be happy to do that. It's something to think about. I'm just trying to plant the seed that just because we've always done things this way doesn't mean we always have to do it this way. And ordinance enforcement too. And I'm not putting words in Mr. O'Leary's mouth, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard you say in the past, it should not be a council person walking up someone's driveway to bang on their door and say you're in violation of an ordinance. It's a conflict of interest because we're supposed to be representing our constituents, and we can't go around with such a small community. It's very easy to tick off 50% of the people, and you're supposed to be running for re-election if you think you're trying to do the community a service. So it's just, that should be someone's job, not council. But am I characterizing that properly, Mr.
I
O'Leary?
think you are.
Thank you. Anyway, I'll move on from this. I just wanted to bring it up. That was talked about during the finance committee.
If I could just, before you move on.
Sure, please.
Just so council's clear, council members and mayor and the fiscal officer, their salaries are set by ordinance, and Ohio law does not allow you to change your salary during your current term.
Mhm.
So in the event that there was the idea of making some adjustments, like some communities pay their president pro tem a stipend higher than other council people because they have to step in for the mayor when the mayor's not available. That's fine. We can address that. But anytime you try, if you're thinking that maybe we can put some bonus structure in there for people who are elected, we can't go there.
Mhm.
Ohio law would not allow us to do that. Now, the idea of taking people that are on staff, giving them more responsibility and paying them for it, that's okay. So if, you know, you want to take some of that responsibility from Cindy, and if she's open to that and let some of that go to somebody else and they get paid for it, you can do that. But just as it pertains to what you are paid, that's by ordinance under Ohio law. You know, you have to establish that before your term starts.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. And we spoke about that too. So we're all well aware that had we given the mayor a raise, or if council gives itself a raise, we know that the raise belongs to the seat, not the person.
Exactly.
And right. So your seat gets a raise the next election. whether you are in that seat or not. So it goes to the, and so, yeah, so we would not be giving ourselves a raise. We'd be giving the position a raise. Which I also want to be clear, that's not what I'm suggesting. I would much rather give these responsibilities to a paid employee. Just to be clear, I would,
$50.
right. I mean,
Tax is
I don't-
134. Yeah.
so
After 2 years of
Um,
tornadoes, where is this
Find
coming from?
something that cheap.
again,
Lose PERS and that could be, set you up for life.
again, I would do this for free, even dealing with you people. Um, so, anyway,
Okay.
I'll move on from that, but a couple other things to address. So last week I witnessed, I hesitate to call it a dog attack. But it was a very mild dog interaction, with someone who was not welcoming that interaction. So down in my neck of the woods, which is near the park, there were the playground park, to be clear. There were two loose dogs, and they approached and went after another dog that was being on a leash, being walked by an individual. And I can't say for sure that the individual was harmed. When they were asked, they kind of said no, but they were visibly very upset. And they were shaken and scared when two dogs you don't know come up to you and they're going after your dog. There was definitely some unfavorable interaction between the dogs. I can say that they weren't mauling each other to death, but it was bad enough. And the other two dogs, to be fair, they might have approached wanting to be friends, but the other dog might have been really defensive, which made those two dogs, react. However, it's the person's responsibility with the loose animals to keep them away from people, walking on the street. But this person was very upset, and one of the reasons why is because she said this happens way too often. It was the third time this has happened, and I'm an animal lover. We have a dog. My wife was a dog trainer, so I'm not picking on animals. I'm not picking on people who have animals. And accidents are going to happen. And what happened in this case, I've never seen these two dogs loose before, was the landscapers supposedly left the gate open. And for one, get on your landscapers. And if they're going to do that kind of stuff, fire them. For two, it's still our responsibility to look after if the landscapers make a mistake and we're going to let our dogs out, we have to make sure that the gate is shut. We have to take that kind of responsibility. Everybody believes their dog is perfect little angel, but your dog, how they treat you is not necessarily how they're going to treat someone else or someone else's dog. So we got to be really, really responsible and careful about that. I thought she was actually going to come tonight, and she did not. But I really
Was the
felt bad
police
for her
department-
because she feels like she can't walk safely in the community with her
Was the
dog.
police department called?
They were.
Was
So
there a citation for dog at large issue?
I don't know. I don't know. I do know they did go to the house in question with the loose dogs. And I know it was an accident. Like I said, I've never seen these dogs loose before, and accidents are going to happen. But and I don't think we should just punish the dog's innocent in a sense because it's the owner that is responsible. But I don't think we should go after the dogs per se. But I think if people were fined when dogs are loose, more often people would be a little more careful. But I just want to bring that up because it was
We
upsetting.
add that to the safety committee list is to maybe get a sense of how much we have. I've got a couple communities where that's a real issue.
Mhm.
And we issue a lot of dog at large citations. And it may only be $100 fine in cost, but it is a criminal offense.
Right.
So
It's I think it's a bigger problem here because of our demographics. We probably have a higher percentage of people having animals and having dogs. We have lots of dog walkers, and we're lucky we're here and not in some other areas because then they would all be pit mixes, and then you'd have a real problem with little. And I have a little kid, so that concerns me too. Even your mid-size, friendly dog could do some damage to a 2-year-old on the street. That's a big deal. So, anyway, moving on. I'm taking Ryan's position tonight in terms of,
I
in
just
terms
gonna
of
say,
talking time.
Did Ryan give you his time or something?
Ryan wears me out. He does this thing. I'm like, I'm tired now. I want to go. So, but anyway, well, no, it's just this last month it's been a lot of things have come up. So
Earned your $150.
yeah, right. Where's that raise? Anyway, so last Thursday, October 10th, there was the Aurora Borealis, which is funny. All my life I've heard about it, and it's never in our area. And then all of a sudden this year it appears twice, which that's kind of lucky, kind of interesting. I had neighbors who live across the street from me approach me yesterday, and they told me that they went down there at 9:15, around 9:15 p.m., give or
The
take.
beach.
Yes, sorry, excuse me. People come to the village hall to look over and see the, see the sky, take their photos. These particular neighbors are not teenagers causing trouble. They are homeowners. They have a key to the beach that they paid for, and they went down to the beach to look at the Aurora Borealis. And they were approached and ejected by one of our police officers. And I believe that was done by mistake. For one, we've gone around about this a few times with this particular council and our police chief. And I've heard 10 p.m. on, a couple times. This was before 10 p.m. This was after dusk. So now it's after dusk. That's the interpretation that the officer was using to eject these individuals. Regardless, I've looked at our ordinances for the parks, and that would include parcel A and the beach. And there's language in there that specifies 14-year-olds and under and 21-year-olds and under for different reasons. It's kind of archaic language, but we can discuss that another time. It says
It really is.
unmarried individuals that are 21 and under. But hey, regardless, there's nothing said of, this is in the 60s, there's nothing said about adults 21 and older being anywhere in our parks past dark.
They had a key evidently,
For sure. They're
because they live
homeowners.
here.
They have a key.
So why were they ejected?
That I don't know, and I'm
Right.
not sure if in the particular officer in question I personally like. So I'm not trying to make this a personal thing, but this is a department whole issue. I believe this council has made it pretty clear, at least most of us, that we are fine with adults going down to the beach at any time.
Yes.
And we can amend that ordinance to include that language.
To be specific about
To be
that. Yeah, I know.
specific that adults, married or not.
Yeah.
Right. We kind of were tackling that about a year ago or so.
we were.
And it got hung up on a couple things, so we never,
Yeah.
approached it, but but even so, even without that language, there is no specific language that says adults can't be down there past a certain time. Homeowners, key owners, we're already restricting parcel A, at least the beach portion, from certain residents in the village, which I think is wrong. If we're going to start restricting adults who are also lot owners and lot buyers who purchased a key to be down there, we're going too far with that. They have also specifically told me that one of the reasons why they moved to Timberlake was because we have a beach. So they want to enjoy it. They pay their property taxes and they should be allowed to enjoy it.
And of
they're
course, you go
adults.
past or past dusk because you want to see the Aurora Borealis
Right.
after dusk. You're
Right.
not going to see it otherwise.
Exactly.
You
And
know, if somebody called on them, that's why the officer went
I
down there?
I don't
Okay.
know that.
So
Someone,
Ryan just texted me. He wants in on this, so I told him to join the Zoom. He's on the live stream.
Of course he does.
Tell him his time is only.
Yeah.
take it back, guys. It's going to be a long one.
Yeah.
Kevin took his
So
over.
anyway, I'm just, I don't know
No,
if the
I do think it
officers,
would be a good idea to go back. I thought I shut that down. I do think it would be a good idea to revisit
Yes.
that ordinance and add that language. But I think what held us up was that there were about 5 different subsets of that became an issue. But I think there's a reasonable time during the summer and a reasonable time, after November 1st, that you could have a curfew, that unless, but
We didn't want people camping out overnight.
that was one of the issues. So we do have somebody that likes to do that.
I understand that. And you could say no permanent structures ever and no temporary structures from
Ever.
midnight on. So
Yeah.
even a tent, but if you want to go down there at 2 a.m. just to look at the waves, I think you should be allowed to do that. If they're making a fire or if they're playing loud music, then they're already breaking ordinances. They're already breaking the rules, and they can be handled in that fashion. But just because some people do that, I don't think we need to make a blanket rule that people can't go enjoy the beach that they're
Right, I
paying.
know a nurse who works in emergency room, and she says she needs to like decompress when she comes home, and she doesn't come home to 10 p.m. And she
She's-
says she goes down there, and one of her hobbies is to look for flint, like
Yeah.
certain flint kind of, because she's tired and she goes down there and she enjoys the beach at 10 p.m. because she's by herself. She feels safe in Timberlake to do so.
Right.
She goes, "Are you gonna take that away from me?" I felt bad, talking to her. I said,
It is lit up. I mean, there's a light right to the top of the stairs. It's very well lit down there. So it's not like it's dark and gloomy and so forth. So it's not, and that's all night long until it gets light. So it's not like it's a dark area. So, and as long as people stay within the property boundaries, and they don't go trespass on them.
and they have a
down
key,
there,
and they have a key.
I mean, there's no reason why they can't be down there at any time, like you said, because it is safe. And then we have a police department right here that can respond. So.
Right. I agree. I don't know how to go about it, but I think we need to make it very clear to our police department to not enforce a ordinance that doesn't exist. Regarding that. Anyway, the last thing I have to talk about is there was a gentleman contacted us, and he had some tree work done, and he did talk to the mayor about it prior. It's along the right of way, which could be a safety issue if it's coming down on the roadway, if it's cracked, such and such. He did talk to the mayor about it, and the mayor said, well, this is, borderline. I'm not so sure that's a huge safety issue. And he gave him some information about, a tree company that we use in the village. And this gentleman, I talked to him on the phone. He says he didn't quite understand the ordinance. A lot of people don't even know it exists. It was in 2022, which we're going to come up on 2 years now. And maybe we need to do a better job putting it in the times, reminding people that the trees in their yard that's along the right of way is now their responsibility to take care of. However, he went on and got this large split branch taken care of. And he was charged $1,000 for it. And he was asking if we could reimburse him, even if it was just $500, he would be grateful for it because he feels that it was a danger. And he didn't quite understand the rules. Now we have to be careful doing this kind of stuff because we set precedents and then everybody thinks they can cut down an expensive tree and have the village reimburse them. We obviously can't afford that. That's why we implemented the ordinance in the first place. And then some people have suggested, well, why don't you come up with exact criteria of what would qualify for mitigating circumstances or financial burdens? The problem with that is because people are on fixed incomes here, where do you draw the line? There's so many variables to that. And even if you ask for their tax returns, what if their situation this year is very different from last year? Then how much are you being intrusive and digging and saying, hey, prove you need this? And it just becomes tricky. And I think we should help people out, especially if it's a safety issue to the public. But it's we just need to be careful, just blanket saying, yes, we're going to reimburse everybody. However, this gentleman pointed out that we already set a precedence this year by granting a little bit of a refund to Mr. Gardner. And he brings up a good point. So this gentleman is Arlen Stevenson on 71 Key Waden. And he is requesting $500 from a $1,000 budget. And we could talk about this more in discussion if you'd like. He is 75. He's on a very fixed income. He's a veteran and his wife is battling cancer. Those are all mitigating circumstances, I think, you know. The problem is Timberlake's demographics. 60% of people are on fixed incomes here. So we can't open it up to fixed incomes because that's more than half the village. And that's also unfair to the people who are working and struggling and are not on fixed incomes, you know. So we got to be careful with that. However, under this circumstance, and I will not be as committee head of the tree department, I will not be entertaining any more of retroactive work like this. You know, if it falls in the roadway, it becomes the village's responsibility. Let us handle it. Don't go off and do things on your own. But
You looking
but
for approval then?
yes, so I would like to make a motion based on his circumstances to reimburse Arlen Stevenson of 71 Keewaydin $500 for tree work services that were rendered.
You think $1,000 was high on that branch? That's,
I-
I mean, I used to be head of trees. That kind of
I do,
high.
and he is, I didn't, that's the problem with the retroactive. I didn't see it prior, so I don't
Okay.
know. Maybe it was really large. Maybe I did see where it was cut, but maybe it was really large. Maybe the branches were entangled. Maybe it was really long.
But you saw the invoice.
I have the invoice.
You have a motion, you need a
I think I
second.
saw the branch. Yeah, it wasn't, I don't know if it was worth 1,000, but then again, you know,
This was during the emergency situation?
In his mind, it was.
Okay, so it was after the storm.
It was after the storm. So it could have been like, you know, roughed up from storm damage.
if I remember correctly, this was on Keewaydin, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it was just a branch that was down, They ended up taking the whole part of that tree down then, it was just one branch hanging. The limb, in my mind, didn't need to come down, even the limb was fine, I mean, it wasn't in danger because it was off the roadway, so it wasn't gonna fall on anyone. At this point, you know, wanna give them 250.
I think the motion is for 500.
May I rescind that and
Sure.
I will rescind
got a
that
second
if
yet.
that's the mayor makes a good point, and he was there before I was. He was there before the limb was cut. Mr. Stevenson seems very appreciative for any help that we could give him, and with the new information, I will revise the amount and I make a motion to reimburse Mr. Arlen Stevenson of 71 Keewaydin $250 for this work, if I can get a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Mara seconds. Okay.
M-
Roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Does
Ryan, did you want to chime in?
No, I think it's well spent.
What time is it where you are?
12:30 a.m.
Okay.
You're in England?
Yep.
He's at a pub. No kidding.
No, I've left the pub already. It's okay. And Kevin, you're doing a good job filling my shoes, buddy. Thanks.
Coming from you, that's
So, any other words you want to add, or?
No, you guys are doing great.
All right, thank you.
I apologize for not bringing this up. My turn. You have another minute or so. There was an exchange this past week with regard, an email exchange between the chairperson for the hall and the chief regarding a parking situation out here. And the end result was that the chief sent out the ordinance regarding parking in the village. And one thing, the ordinance regarding parking in the village was passed in 1990. And so here we are 34 years later. I am quite sure that the demographic has changed a bit. But I also, as I read and I'm not going to read it into the minutes today, but I think it's something that we ought to take a look at. The chief has alluded to the fact that there are actually 2 parking ordinances in the collection of ordinances for the village, and that they somewhat conflict with one another. The one that she chose to send identifies that you are not allowed to park on your lawn. But there's a entry, or the beginning of the ordinance has a caveat in there that unless you would be adversely affecting traffic. Now, I would say that if somebody was having a party and had, say, 25 cars that, were parked along the street, our streets are barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass. And if the requirement is that only 2 wheels have to be on the lawn, that means that 2/3 of the car at least is now obstructing traffic. Okay. And so therefore, if you had this line of 25 cars, so we had a brunch after the wedding reception for all of our out-of-town visitors, and we probably had close to 20 cars at our house. The chief admonished me in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way about the fact that, well, yeah, she saw us park all those cars on the lawn, and I didn't feel like I'd give you a ticket, but I'm telling you, that kind of a conversation, which was fine. But, and I wish the chief was here because I would like her to hear this. But I think that we need to, as council, take a look at those 2 ordinances, bring them together, figure out what makes sense now. Because my feeling is that if I had all of my guests park on Shawandasi and Owaissa around that whole corner, that no more than 1 car could have passed safely on the road. And so I think that we actually did a service to the people on Shawandasi and Owaissa to have them park on the lawn. Now, I understand you don't want to be parked on the lawn overnight. And you don't want them to do it on a regular basis. But I think that if there was some sort of mechanism, procedure that we could alert the police that we are having a party on such and such a day from these hours to these hours, and we need to take advantage of our lawns. I think that's probably something that would be a prudent thing to consider. So I'd like to visit this. I will take responsibility for talking to John, getting copies of those ordinances, taking a look at that, seeing if I can combine those things, and I'll be making a proposal probably at the next meeting. I don't know that it's the kind of thing that we need to do it in an emergency, but I think it is something that we need.
Why don't you refer it to the safety committee?
Well, maybe I will. I'll bring it to the safety.
I was just looking to see if we had an ordinance committee. I was looking to see in our committee list if there would be a different committee, but certainly the safety committee should take that under consideration, and even the one about the beach.
I completely agree with you, Jerry. And also when people are having workers at their house too. I had my roof done last week, and where do we park in the meantime? And it's always a question. And so far the police department has been lenient with that and not issuing citations, but they could. And why? We do, and people are entitled to have friends and family visit them. Some of us have those, and we should be able to have them and invite them without worrying and stressing about, well, my parking. I have a one car wide driveway and with 4 cars. Where do people park? I just can't have them. Just cannot have a party. That's not right. So I do think that should be addressed.
So anyway, I will. I'll take a look at those and maybe add that to the agenda part of the safety committee. I'll talk to the chairperson of the safety committee.
But to make it
See if
clear,
you can
to-
convince her into.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See if
it
you
may
get a
be
hold of
tough.
her.
but to make it clear, you could park on the village streets, 2 wheels off, 2 wheels on any street, correct?
That's what it
Yeah,
says.
and unless you cannot park 2 wheels on the medians or on the triangles.
Correct.
They have to be on the
Opposite side.
homeowner's
And
side.
I
of
think
the-
you have to stay so far away from a stop sign.
Yes,
you can't-
that's a
300 feet
state
from an
law.
intersection.
Yeah, that's-
Stand on your head, turn around,
you
abracadabra.
can't block driveways.
Now you are allowed to park on the median, to the first intersection, I believe, here. Now,
Correct.
obviously, that's for Village Hall parties. However, people take advantage of that and have their landscapers park on the median, people who live close to the Village Hall. And theoretically, we cannot do that down by the park. That's wrong, that they're taking advantage of the fact that people can park down here for being a guest to the Village Hall, not their personal landscapers, but they're doing that, and I could not do that. And I have a median in front of my house, so that should be talked about too.
Okay, I don't know that we'll solve it at the committee meeting. Obviously, we have a lot of other topics to talk about, but.
I think the first thing that you need to do is look at if there are in fact 2 ordinances. We need to look at what sections they're under and see if they can be somehow combined and take the best of both and combine them so that there's no confusion over which one applies. So I think that's your first goal.
Okay.
Then you can deal with all this other kind of intricacies of it.
All right,
Anyway.
I'll ask John if you can research that. You have the.
If you go on the codified ordinances on Timberlake,
Oh.
you can pull it on,
website?
you can get it on the
Oh, all right, never mind.
American legal.
American legal. I mean, not that John wouldn't.
Go on the,
wouldn't
you'll see it,
get
it's on the
for you,
website,
but
it's on our website.
Okay,
It might be easier to just pull it up.
all right, I'll do that.
Put it up at home, yep,
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I meant to bring that up.
no problem. It's good,
Okay,
it's all good.
Mr. Roskis, financial reports.
Okay, our general fund ending balance through September 30th is at $522,654. Monthly revenue was $59,639 versus expenditures of $50,926 for a net surplus for the month of $8,714. Expenditures were about $5,503 higher than estimated, partly due to tree expenses, and also there was an extra withholding period for PERS and Ohio Police and Fire. So there were three of those periods instead of 2 for the month. And then some other miscellaneous expenses accounted for the rest. Our September 2024 revenue exceeded expectations by about $7,639, and it's primarily again due to higher than estimated income tax receipts and also the receipt of an insurance claim due to the storm expenses we experienced. A small portion of that benefited funds 2011, our street maintenance fund, and 2021 SCMR, which is the fund that benefits Lakeshore Boulevard. We did not receive the second homestead and rollback payment from the state of Ohio until October. Normally we receive that in September, so that sort of did affect the revenues a little bit, but we still exceeded it because of the income tax receipts. And our overall year-to-date revenue was $82,102 higher than last year at this point. Income tax revenue is approximately $89,366 more than last year-to-date. Based on our current estimated spending rates and revenue throughout the rest of the year, we are estimating a surplus for the general fund of around $144,349. That's with no addition to our capital funds. If we add $15,000 to the police cruiser capital fund at the end of the year, we would be looking at a surplus of around $129,349. And this does not take into effect any potential income tax refunds or any other unexpected events. Other significant fund activity and miscellaneous, no other significant fund activity for the month. We did issue three refunds totaling $300 from our 9901 hall rental security deposit fund. Also, I did forget to mention during our finance committee meeting that our audit will be coming up next year. So that I did not mention that there. So that'll probably be around, they say $8,500, but they said that last time, figuring it's going to be probably,
That's every other year.
yeah, it's
Thank you. Next, police report. We have 5 911 calls, 1 incident call, 2 animal calls, 7 assists. We have 64 community policing at the beach and the playground. We have 14 that were done on patrols that were done on the playground grounds. 138 house checks. And 1 traffic and 3 wellness checks. And some other miscellaneous, total of 257 altogether.
Anything about dogs?
You said animal, but it says animal, it's a dog.
Or 2, I think you said.
Animal, there are 2 of them,
Okay.
2 animal reports.
How's the park looking?
Better,
Probably because kids are back in school and
perhaps, yeah.
They're just getting colder.
Yeah, right. About a week and a half ago, we went there and it was an absolute mess. It's like they left their entire bedroom set, like at the park. It was dinner time and we think they went to dinner because by the next morning it was all cleaned up. So we think they went to dinner, came back and got their belongings. I mean, I would not do that as a kid because I mean, it's theft.
got a zoning report.
Zoning report, we have 5 roof permits, 1 siding permit, 1 deck permit, 1 chimney, 2 windows, and 1 interior remodel permit. It's total for permits from our zoning inspector, Gary Gray. Next, purchases and approvals. Do I have a motion to approve the September 2024 financial reports? So moved. Mr. Joyce makes a motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Joyce seconds. Any discussion on that?
Thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce,
Aye.
Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick,
Aye.
Mrs. Mara,
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Moving on to public comments. We have public, you have a question, please?
Make sure you turn the mic on. Please.
Do I need to sign this too?
Hold on the mic, hold on the mic. There you go.
Do I need to sign this too?
No, we'll get you on record.
Okay. Debbie King, 43 East Shore Boulevard. I just have a question about permits. Do we need a permit to repair damages done by the storm? I thought we did not.
That's what it's for, yeah, type of-
I don't know what it was for. If you had to replace your roof, you'd still have to file a permit. It's just so that we have reputable contractors in our community.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. All right,
Thank you.
anyone else have anything else you want to discuss? We can have a motion to adjourn. Would like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thompson makes a motion, about a second. Mr. Joyce seconds, roll call.
Mr. Joyce, Mrs. Joyce, Mrs. Hardwick.
Aye.
Mrs. Mara.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Thank you, we are adjourned. Our
Time's the
next
game start?
meeting Will be Tuesday, November 19th, 6:30 p.m.
I'd say game
For
start.
the safety meeting is the 22nd, right?
Safety
Is
meeting.
there
yeah.
Start at 8 o'clock or 7:58 or something. Last Thursday, we had a very long